Morning, everyone. Thank you to come out to RADA SPDC's Sanitation, Hygiene, and Food Safety training this morning. I will start by just opening up with prayer, and then I will turn over to the next person that you'll hear from, which is Ms. Farkison, as a senior home economics manager for the Western Zone, and she will open with welcome and recognition. So I will just say a word of prayer right now. Heavenly Gracious Father God, as we come before you for this session, I pray that it will be a productive one. Persons will learn from the information that will be given this morning. I pray that you will just have your way during this session. Father God, any opportunity that's there for persons to ask questions, I pray that you'll just allow those questions to come, and you will just give us, Father God, this opportunity to have more of these sessions. God, I just thank you for gathering us this morning. I thank you for keeping us well, Father God, and for the persons that are not well, I pray, Father God, that you give them strength and endurance during these times. I just pray that you have your way, take over this session. Let it be done in your glory. In your name I pray. Amen. So without further ado, I would just like to now turn over to Ms. Farkison. Ms. Farkison, so you could unmute your mic, you can just go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to wish you and your families the best of health during these challenging times. Special welcome to Mrs. Collins, our Senior Director for the Social Services Home Economics Unit, other SBTDC partners joining us this morning, all my fellow colleagues in the Home Economics Unit, our agro-processors, and our presenters, who I am sure we will learn much from their expertise in the different areas. Once again, welcome, welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Farkison.
Thank you for that, Ms. Farkison, who is the Senior Home Economics Officer, Manager for the Western Zone. She controls side of the island, St. James, Westmoreland, Hanover, right. So I didn't get the opportunity to introduce myself. My apologies for not doing that. So I'll just take this opportunity before I welcome the next person that you'll hear from. I'm O'Shane Hunter, Business Development Officer and SBDC Counselor at RADA SBDC. I am the person on the ground that interacts and assists clients with whatever areas of the business that they need assistance with. Should you need information from us at the end of this session, we will leave contact information for you to get in touch with us. Just a little bit of ground rules before we actually dive more into the session. Please keep your mics muted unless you want to ask a question. You can use the raise hand feature and we will definitely get to you. There's a question and answer segment that will come further in the session after the presenters have presented. But if you do have questions during the session, you can definitely use the raise hand feature and we will acknowledge and answer the questions as best as we possibly can. So we would just now like to call Miss Collins, who is the Senior Director for the SS and HEO Unit, Social Services and Home Economics Unit. Ms. Collins, if you're hearing me, you could just unmute your mic and give the overview of the unit. Thanks much.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Okay, let me just greet you all this morning and hope that you're all in good health. The Social Service Home Economics Unit actually started many, many years ago by Novelet C. Jones. She has passed on I think it was in 1984 she passed on, but the unit continues to grow. She started the unit just by herself and it has grown now. We now have an officer in each parish. We have 4 senior officers managing those parish officers out there. And we also have a number of social service home economics assistants. And these persons are assigned to projects, special projects, in addition to the senior director, that is. The unit actually focuses on farm family, women and out of school youth who are unemployed. But in recent years, we have been turning our attention to urban areas because we noticed that we have challenges in our urban areas where we have communities that are in need of the service. We touch on every area of home economics, and you may know that home economics is a very wide field. It covers a number of areas that it touches on every area that touches the family unit. We touch home management, we touch family life education, we touch on child development and care, we touch on food and nutrition, clothing and textiles, craft, all of those areas that are covered under home economics. We work with those areas where the interest lies. We actually go out in the communities and we establish groups in communities where the need arise. In other communities, persons request the services. So we go out and we work with those communities as well. But we actually look at what is available in the community, what raw materials are available, what facilities are available, and we try to work with those groups based on what is available in the community. So where we have developed products and so on with community groups and individuals, it's because the raw material is available, readily available in those areas. We have actually assisted to start up some small businesses in communities with individuals and groups and also with families where the interest is identified. Our officers out there, we have 1 in each parish and they are based at the RADA parish offices, and we encourage other agencies who from time to time may draw on their services and support to enhance what they're doing. And so we also draw on their support to enhance what we're doing. We encourage that kind of collaboration. And as usual, these collaborations actually strengthen what we do and also prevent overlapping in different areas. So it encourages multifaceted or multi-sectoral approach to problem solving in communities. We try to encourage persons to grow some of what they eat. And so we encourage backyard gardening. We encourage small livestock rearing, for example, poultry for eggs and meat. And where it is possible, we encourage goat rearing. We encourage pig rearing, we encourage rabbit rearing, where the interest lies. We work with those as well. We work with crops, mostly vegetable crops, and where the land space is available, we encourage persons to plant fruit trees like garden cherries and those things that don't take up a lot of space and they are very nutritious, and when they bear a lot. So we promote those as well. We also touch areas of counseling where families, individuals, persons have personal issues and they need some assistance in terms of counseling. We actually initiate the counseling process, and where there is need for referral, we make the referrals. We assist in terms of social and social protection. So we encourage persons to access social protection facilities that are available from the different agencies. We encourage persons to tap into the grants, the small grants that are provided by different agencies to assist them to improve their family life and improve their small or micro enterprises that they are working with. The whole idea of the micro enterprise is to encourage persons to develop family businesses that they can leave for their children and grandchildren to carry on with. If the Chinese can do it and the Indians can do it, I don't see why we can't. So we encourage that. And this is one of the reasons why we encourage the micro enterprises to be established, to get the families to generate some income for themselves, and especially the women who are mostly unemployed. We encourage them to do something at home that they can generate added income, rather than relying on the income of the men to come in to support the family. They would be generating some income for themselves as well to assist in the family issues and family development. So we do that. We do so many things that sometimes it's kind of hard for me to put a finger on it and to say, oh, this is what we do and that is what we do. But I think that's it in a nutshell. You may have questions. You can ask the questions later on when the question and answer session comes on. So back to you, Mr.
All right,
Hunter.
thank you. Thank you much, Ms. Collins. It was Mrs. Collins. We appreciate you being online with us this morning, and the work and the assistance that you have provided for the entire island within RADA. At this point, I would just like to, take this opportunity to point out the work that the home economics unit is doing within RADA, and the fact that we are collaborating, and not only these sessions, but we have collaborated in the past before. So I would just like to, a special big up to the home economics unit for this opportunity once more. Without further ado, I would like to ask Ms. Tanya Robertson, who is a Home Economics Officer for St. James, if she could just come online now, unmute herself, and for the welcome or the introduction of the speaker or the presenter for the day.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Special good morning to my good morning, Miss. Special good morning to you, my director, my group members online. Thanks for joining. Also to the RADA family, the officers in the East, yes, and the officers, my teammates from the West. Thanks everyone for joining. Okay, sanitation, hygiene, and food safety. So simple and routine. Okay, so I was hearing an echo. Sorry about that. Let me go again. Sanitation, hygiene, and food safety sounds simple and routine. However, as agro-processors, there are protocols that must be followed in order to stay compliant and to save us money. Today, we have two presenters that will arm us with information that will keep us on the right track, encouraging longevity for our businesses. My colleague, Social Services Home Economics Officer for the Parish of Hanover, Ms. Latoya Wright, a graduate from the University of Technology, and she holds a Bachelor's of Science degree in Nutrition and Dietetics. Her role, training rural women, agro-processors, and entrepreneurs is a major part of her core function. For the past 8 years, it is within her responsibility to assist agro-processors with facility layout and implementation before the Bureau of Standards comes to your facility to do their assessment. And our next presenter will be none other than the regulator himself, Mr. Lenward Clark. So ladies and gentlemen, you need to take out your notepads because much of what you're about to hear need to be implemented. So without further ado, I hand over now to Ms. Latoya Wright. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robertson. And as Ms. Robertson said, that we are encouraging you to take notes and also not to just take notes, but to implement these things that we'll be discussing, because it's very important for you as an agro-processor or a prospective agro-processor to note these things, to follow them, because we want, as Ms. Robertson said, longevity. We want your products to be on the shelves because we know that you have amazing products, and we want them to be on the shelves, and not just for now, but for the future. And in the future, want you to also be exporters, because the world needs to know about all of these products, wonderful products that are in Jamaica. Mr. Hunter will be sharing the screen for me, and I'll be covering the sanitation and hygiene aspect of the training. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. Okay, so as said before, I am the Parish Social Services Home Economic Officer. My name is Latoya Wright, and I am responsible for the Parish of Hanover. The aim of today's presentation is to enhance the capacity of agro-processors to produce safe food. What are our training goals? We want to cover personal care, or we'll be covering personal care, proper hand washing techniques, importance of hand washing, sanitation and hygiene, types of contaminations that may occur in the food, and sanitation, the difference between sanitation, disinfection, and sterilization. So first, what is sanitation? It's the condition that maintains or restores a state of cleanliness and promotes hygiene for prevention of foodborne illness. So we want to ensure that wherever our workstation is, it is clean and safe. And also that our personal care is, we're responsible for our personal care to prevent foodborne illness from spreading. Then we may ask ourselves, what is hygiene? And that is the condition or practices conducive to maintaining health and preventing disease, especially through cleanliness. And the popular saying is cleanliness is next to godliness, and we need to practice that in our food establishment. Food hygiene refers particularly to the practices that prevent microbial contamination of food at all points along the chain from farm to table. So from the point of post-harvesting to the point of sanitation of the actual food produce to the point of agro-processing, which is where we use that food produce to create a product. So let's cover personal care first. So question to the audience or to the group, the persons in attendance. And as Mr. Hunter said, you can use the hand raise icon to answer. Proper attire. What is it that we mean by being properly attired for production? Does it mean that you should be in a business suit and heels when you're in the agro-processing facility? Anyone can answer.
No, I don't think that's what it means.
Okay. What do you think that it means?
It means that you need to wear clothing that is safe and that's appropriate for wherever you're working. So if you're in a factory with food, you need your hairnet, proper shoes, gloves, that sort of thing.
Very good. Thank you very much. So not only should we have these clothing on, but we should ensure that they're clean, right? And they're protecting us. And also, we don't want to have our protective clothing on and go outside of the facility, because that's another way in which contamination can be introduced to your agro-processing facility. We also need to ensure that we are not wearing any jewelry, additional nails, because what happens is that we can have some physical contamination that can occur, and we'll be speaking about it later on. We should also ensure that our fingernails are properly trimmed and they're clean. And another thing that we should cover in personal care in this time is COVID-19, right? We should observe all the protocols of COVID-19. So these are some additional steps that you have to put into your facility. You have to ensure that you're conducting your temperature checks, and you have a wash hand maybe every hour. So you have a time wash hand every hour that each person has to wash their hands, along with all the other times, which we will cover in later on. And we must sanitize at all times, and we cannot sanitize dirty hands. We should ensure that we are practicing our proper wash hand techniques, because this is one of the ways in which we can prevent spreading foodborne illnesses, right? Another thing in personal care is cuts, abrasions, and if you're ill, if the employee is ill, what should that employee do? So cuts and abrasions should be covered with waterproof bandage. And you want to do that because you want the bandage to be able to hold and not come off and be in the product. Imagine you're preparing, say, a batch of jam, and you got cut by the knife while preparing the fruit, and you put a bandage on. And after bottling and labeling, you realize that that bandage is missing. What would you do in that case?
Please, not all at once.
You have to condemn that.
Exactly, and we don't want to waste all our money that we have invested into buying our ingredients. So we have to ensure that we follow these protocols, put on a glove, and ensure that the bandage is properly covered, and we don't want no blood running into the food. And as gross as it sounds, that is just the reality of when a cut happens, what can occur in our food handling. And especially now with COVID-19, we should ensure that once we have any form of communicable diseases that can be spread by means of touching or contact, we have to stay home, right? I'm gonna ask Mr. Hunter to just play this video, which shows us the proper hand washing technique, and then we'll discuss it after. We're not hearing.
No. I hear no audio. Sorry.
It's okay. We can still just watch the steps and then we can discuss it. Sorry about that.
The sound needs to be shared first.
Oh, we do that.
What?
You can continue. We can discuss it after. Let's watch the actions. Okay. All right. Cancel that, Mr. Hunter. All right. So we noticed that with the hand washing technique, what are some of the things that you noticed that was wrong? What was wrong?
The man was a walking bacteria.
Like how you put it, he was a walking bacteria. Why you said that?
Well, apart from the fact that he sneezed in his hand, you realize that the way he handled the stuff, the garbage bag, the light switch, everything was a transference of germs.
Exactly. Thank you. So what happened is that every time he touched like the garbage bag, sneezed in his hand, that was a form of contaminant, and he was spreading that contamination right throughout the entire facility. So what happened, and even after he washed his hands, he did the right technique, you know, he used the warm water, he used soap, he washed the back, the thumb, he interlocked the fingers, and ensured that he got all the areas covered. He didn't, well, the video didn't show him going back over and cleaning the light switch and all those other things. So that's something as simple as that. Not sure I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, there's an echo.
Somebody needs to
All
mute them.
right, so if the persons that are online, if you're not speaking, if it is possible, could you just check if your mics are muted? All right, you can go ahead, Mr. Wright.
Okay, so we have to ensure that we practice the proper techniques, and not only practice the techniques, but to ensure that we are not the source of causing the contamination within our food processing facilities. We're talking, Both
Just a point here. If he's going to be handling garbage, he should have done the disposable apron so that his clothes that he wears in the food processing area is not contaminated also.
the very, very important and good point. And also what you can do, depending on the type of facility that you have and the amount of garbage or you have within a day, you can also ensure that you empty the garbage bin periodically, but you should ensure that you remove your protective clothing, because it's not only protecting your clothing under what you're wearing, but it's also to ensure that we are not wearing our street clothes in our agro-processing facility, or if we're doing that, it is covered. So that is another way to limit or reduce the spread of contaminations, microbial bacteria.
Just a small follow-up there, that every evening there should be a wash down process where an disinfecting process and all garbage removed from the facility so that any creatures don't take over your place when you are when you're not there.
So thank you. And that is a part of pest control management. Can you please mute your mic? I'm not sure whose mic is on.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so one of the ways in which we can reduce our microbial load as well is to use sanitizers, and we have to ensure that we buy our sanitizers from a specified manufacturer and that they are following the specifications by the Jamaica standards. So when should we wash our hands? And in our previous videos, we saw points in which the person working in the facility should wash their hands. So we should ensure that our hands are washed before the starting of work. So our hand washing station should be positioned at the entrance of your facility. We should wash our hands during food preparation. When we're preparing more than one food, we have to ensure that we wash our hands to prevent cross-contamination from occurring. After using the toilet, and even in the video before, we noticed that he sneezed. So after sneezing or coughing or using your handkerchief, you should ensure that you wash your hands. If you're somebody that touches your face, you have to wash your hands after doing that. Why is it important to wash your hands? Anybody? Why is it important?
Washing your hands prevents the spread of contamination.
Okay, so it prevents
source, and also it helps to have a stabilized, clean environment.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? Okay, so
washing your hands basically keeps you germ-free. But one of the things you should also have at your wash hand bay is that
wash hand station.
Yeah, wash hand station is that should also have a how should I put it? You should have a sanitizer that is not perfumed.
A deodorized sanitizer. That's why it has to be, as mentioned before, it has to be at a specific standard for food processing. So
for
we
food processing, yes.
Processing the standard before. So we need to use deodorized soaps and deodorized sanitizers in our processing facility. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that it's important to wash your hand, as mentioned, is to prevent the transmission of human disease in foods. right? And to help to prevent the infestation of pests. And to also, very important, is to improve the shelf life and the quality of food products that you are producing. Because some persons, we spend a lot of money buying the ingredients, preparing this wonderful product, and because of some breach in our steps, we're not washing hands, some contamination occurred, and the food cannot stay as long as it should, and you have to discard all of that without making back the money that you spent. Okay, so let us look a little on sanitation and hygiene.
Can I
What
ask
is
a
the purpose?
question?
Can you please write that question down? And we'll be having a question and answer session at the end. So if you could just write that question down, we can take it at the end. All right.
Sorry to butt in here, but what you could actually do also, just write it in the chat and we'll
Okay,
definitely do it
yes,
there
so we'll
that
address it, yes. Thank you, Mr. Hunter. So what is the purpose of sanitation and hygiene? It is to prevent cross-contamination by way of contaminated environment. This procedure applies to production employees and all the persons entering your production areas. So as much as possible, you should try and not allow persons in your production area. But supposing for this particular day, you have like a tour of students or prospective processors, or you have the Bureau of Standards or somebody coming in, it's your facility, and regardless if they're from the Bureau or one of the regulations body, you have to ensure that your quality and your standards are maintained. So you have the same quality and standards that you have for your staff, you should have for anyone entering your production. And this helps you to maintain the integrity of your product. So the persons must be properly attired, meaning they must wear, if it is a visitor, you can have disposable aprons. Their hair must be covered to prevent flyaways and hairs in your food production area. They must wash their hands before entering your facility, right? So that is on you, the owner or the manager of that facility, to ensure that all these steps are followed, right? Okay, so what is contamination? This is the presence of foreign substances in food. So whatever is not supposed to be there, it's not a part of your ingredients, right? That is a contaminant. What is cross-contamination? This is the transfer of germs or foreign substances onto food or food contact services. So it's the way in which contamination is transferred onto the food surfaces or onto the actual food that you're producing. So right now we'll be looking on the type of contaminants, and here we have the chemical, which is the first thing that we're going to look at. Can anybody tell me, how can your food be contaminated with chemical?
Any chemical that shouldn't be a part of your food.
Okay, and
how you store the chemical.
Okay, storage. So any chemical that's not a part of your food, storage. Any other answers?
Utilization. So for example, you have the chemical beside the food and it's open.
Okay. Thank you. So chemical contamination happens when a food becomes contaminated by some kind of chemical substances. So somebody said that it may be contaminated with chemical if it's not a part of your food. But do you know that we can add too much additives or preservatives to a food and it becomes chemically contaminated? So if we're not using the chemical according to the usage on the container or the package, we can cause our foods to become contaminated with chemical. Storage, very important. Chemicals should be stored away from the food processing area. And it should be covered at all time. Once you're not using it, so you use it, you cover the chemical and you put it away. Somebody can mistakenly take up the bottle and add it to the food. So we need to be careful whenever we are handling food chemicals, any chemicals at all. Another way in which food can become contaminated, for example, we are purchasing from a farmer. And the farmer is taking the nice, lovely, juicy food produce. What produce are we gonna to be using now? All right, what's in seed?
Callaloo.
Okay, callaloo. So we're making
cabbage.
Okay, so we're making some vacuum sealed chopped mixed vegetables, right? That farmer did not spray their produce. However, a farmer beside them may have sprayed their produce, right? And some of that chemical was transferred onto the callaloo and the cabbage and all the mixed vegetables that that farmer that you're purchasing from reaped, right? So that the withdrawal period would not have been observed, and he takes that produce to your facility and you know sell that produce, and you clean it, you wash it, you follow your procedures, but that was already contaminated with pesticide. Do you think by just washing it, it can get rid of the pesticide?
Oh.
Okay, no.
No.
So,
No, it can't.
No, it cannot. So whoever we choose to purchase our items from, we must ensure that they're approved suppliers and also that they are following the proper steps. And that is just a simple mistake, not on the seller's side or on you, the processor, but that's just something that may happen. Or that person may not have enough callaloo and them go steal it, and the person them steal it from, they just sprayed. Chemical contamination can occur at that point. The next contaminant that we'll be looking on is physical. And this is the most common one, you can say, that happens in food, because simple things things that we think are simple and just a breach in our step can cause our food to become contaminated with physical objects. For example, your hair is not properly covered. So I have a lot of hair, I'd have to use more than one net to ensure that it is properly covered. Any flyaway can happen and the hair is in the food. Or you're processing, let's say, sauces, and you're bottling, and you notice that one of the bottles have a chip on it, right? How will you be sure that that process, it did not occur during the time that you were processing your product? You can't know, right? Can you know at what point it was contaminated?
No.
Or if the product is even contaminated? It would
Not at all. No.
Yes. So we cannot know. We cannot know at what point the product was contaminated, and then we have to discard that product, because even though we're going to lose, because we spend $10,000 or $20,000 to produce this particular batch, and you said, you know, really and truly, I'm lost $10,000 I'm spend, me really not have it, me go take the chance. But say you took that chance and you have your product on the shelf, and somebody who bought the product complained that them give them child and glass go down them throat and all the other ramifications of what happened just by doing that. It's better to lose that 10,000 or that 20,000 or that 100,000 at that point than to lose your credibility of your product. So that's very important. So you replace any damaged equipment immediately. You ensure that you have a pest control system in place, that you don't have pests and other contaminants like that in your produce. You ensure that persons are dressed according to the dress code and the principles of your facility. And let us just look on this picture and imagine you bought your burger, you reach home and you're ready to take a big bite, only to see a bloody bandage in it. How would you feel about that?
Upset.
You would be upset. What are some other feelings that you would have? What other feeling?
I want to take legal action.
Yes.
I would be in the mood to sue, miss.
Exactly. So
Oh, absolute disgrace
to buy
anything.
You'd want to throw up. You'd want to throw up. You'd be in the mood to sue. You'd be angry. You'd be upset, right? Because you spend all of this money.
I would be telling others not to buy any food there.
Not to buy it. Exactly. And you know what? Word of mouth travels very fast. Very fast. It's the #1 marketing strategy that can be used. And imagine that's how you feel. So put yourself in your customer's shoe, right? And they buy your product, whatever. What are some of the products that we have processing? Persons who are already processors, what products do we have already?
Shredded callaloo, miss.
Aki.
Shredded callaloo, aki.
Seasoning and sauces.
Seasoning and sauces.
Jam and jelly.
Jams and jellies.
Juices.
Juices. Okay, so we have a wide range of products, right? So imagine you put your products out there and somebody buys it. Say, for example, let's say juice, and then buy it and still want fly in the juice, right? Imagine all of those feelings that you have. You want to sue, you're angry, you're gonna tell persons, and that is what will happen to you if you don't ensure that you follow the protocols and ensure that you're not having any contamination in your food. And for example, say something went out and you just did not know. It's just an honest mistake, and you found out after that you may have some form of contamination occurred in that product. What you have to do is to recall all of that product. If it's already out there, you ensure that you get back all of that product, so as to maintain your reputation of your product and your reputation of your brand. So one of the major, okay.
Hello. Yes, I was saying that not only can that tarnish reputation of your brand, but it might extend to other people's as well. Because,
Yes.
for example, if I open something in a tin and I find all sorts of disgusting things, I might decide that, look here, I don't want nothing in tin anymore. And I might tell people now that, look here, sometimes when you open them tin, these are the things that you might find, and turn off a number of other persons from it as well.
Yes, very important point. Thank you. So the major contamination that occurs can be a microbial contamination, and that occurs when food is contaminated with microorganisms, right? And that may speak to bacteria, viruses, mold, fungi, and toxins, and it can happen through various means. It can be that the food is undercooked, salmonella, depending on the food item that you're producing, the intestine of that animal may be contaminated with salmonella, and it passes it on when you handle the whole food and the food surfaces. So how can this be transferred? It can be transferred from hand to food, food to food, or equipment to food. One of the ways in which microorganism is transferred mostly is when we're not following the proper techniques of washing our hands or washing our hands frequently. So we have to maintain a good personal hygiene. If you are ill, you take time off from work. You separate raw and ready to eat food at all stages of the food handling process. Always wash fruits and vegetables, and you control pests and ensure that they are not on your premises, because they can be a source of contamination and they can also be a carrier of contamination. Another thing we can do is that we separate our utensils and the things that we use for raw foods. So for example, if you're doing, say you're somebody that does catering, you ensure that the food, the cutting board that you use to cut your meats on is not the same cutting board you use to do your vegetables and your fruits. And that is also a means to reduce or limit cross-contamination, right? So we're going to look at this picture and we're going to identify the hazards. What hazards do you see? So I want you to tell me what the hazards are and what category they fall in, whether it is physical, microbiological, or chemical. So look at this wonderful picture. What are some of the hazards you identify there?
There's a spill on the floor.
Spill? What hazard would that come under?
We call it, is it slip and fall? I don't remember.
Would it be physical or chemical or microbiological?
It will be physical.
Okay, very good.
There's a lady cutting cucumber and she doesn't have on a hairnet.
Yes. So what hazard can occur here?
Physical.
Okay, so we identify physical.
She's also cutting the cucumber on the counter. There's no cutting board.
Okay, and what can occur here?
It can be a
microbiological hazard. Yeah. Very good. What else do we notice?
Open oven, which is physical.
I see a jar over the sink that looks like it has poison.
Yes, it's like a bottle with poison because you see the poisonous head on it. What hazard can occur here?
Chemical.
A chemical, very good.
A knife on the edge of the sink.
And the blade is facing up.
Yeah.
And slippage on the floor.
And the kitchen is overall clean or dirty?
Dirty.
Dirty.
So there we can have also microbiological hazard.
And it is crowded.
24 people.
Yeah. And then the food is not being monitored. Yeah.
Someone trying to put a crate
and nobody's wearing a mask.
Well, we're going to assume that it is pre-COVID.
It's normal times.
Yeah, normal times as we put it. But yes, so her hair is not covered. We see a lot of physical hazard. Even the walls behind the stove have stains. So we know that there's microbes.
No, not yet.
Would somebody be wearing a mask in a kitchen when they're preparing food?
Yes. I mean, in
this time.
It's necessary.
We wouldn't be suffocating them with the heat and everything on them.
No, sir.
Well,
okay, can I say something?
Okay.
In a establishment that process seasoning, where the scallion and the onions are pungent and allows your sinuses to activate. And you might sneeze or something. When it comes up to your eyes, I'm looking about some pepper now, and the pepper is very pungent. And when it comes up to your eyes, and you know, you need a mask.
Yes, and in addition to that, what we are not sure how COVID is all the ways in
Right.
transferred. So we have to ensure that we are wearing masks, or employees are wearing masks, and we are controlling what happens to the food that we're putting out. That is important in order to maintain and sustain our business. And as Ms. James said, there are some products that you're doing that will require you, even prior to COVID, to wear mask in order to protect the food that we're putting out.
And I'm thinking,
Somebody was saying something, but I'm not sure what happened.
Yes, that, yeah, man.
I think I was remuted, it would appear. I was saying that it's not even just for the food, it's also for your health. Because even to over time, the chemicals and stuff that you use, if you don't have a mask, then it's gonna affect your health.
And even persons who are handling flowers and powders, you want to cover your nose as well in order to prevent you from sneezing and protect your, some persons have sinus issues. So mask is important in some food processing, and especially now that we're in this day and age of COVID-19, we have to ensure that we are wearing our mask in production. So somebody mentioned about the place not being properly ventilated. Well, that is a breach of the standards. Your place should be properly ventilated, and airflow should be flowing freely to prevent this. I mean, it may be a little bit uncomfortable because we're not used to it, but we'll get used to it, and it is a proper and safe thing to do. Time and temperature is another way in which we can have contamination, and we have something called the danger zone, right? And that is when potentially hazardous foods are left in the danger zone for too long. And we ask, what is the danger zone? And that is 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So a rule of thumb to follow is to keep hot food hot and keep cold food cold, to prevent the transfer of or the growth or replication of the microbial load in foods, right? So that is very important. Mr. Clark will be touching on that. Storing our foods. We should ensure that our food is stored properly. We have to have a thermometer to monitor, or invest in a thermometer to monitor the temperatures in our refrigerators to ensure that it is working properly. So refrigerators should be 41 degrees Fahrenheit or less. And the frozen food should be below 0 or 0. Dry food should be between 50 and 70 degrees. And produce should be stored at room temperature. Okay, so we're at the last part of the presentation, where we'll be looking on what is the difference between sanitation, disinfection, and sterilization. So firstly, we have to cleaning is the first and most important step for controlling the spread of infectious germs in the food establishment. If you don't clean your implements, which is your equipment that you're using, disinfectants may be deactivated or block the soap and dirt and grease or oil, right? So sanitation is basically another word for cleaning. So it means that you're removing visible contamination and debris and dramatically lowering the numbers of germs on the surface. Now, when we speak about sanitation, what are some of the things that we use in our agro-processing facility? We use to sanitize.
Lysol spray.
In your agro-processing facility? Speak about your agro-processing facility.
Diversol.
So that's a what's Diversol?
Diversol is a oxidizer. It's a bleach. It's the bleach that we use. We dissolve it in water and we use it to clean down surface area
and
as a sanitizing agent.
Okay, and our most famous one, this is dishwashing liquid or soap. That's one as well.
Bleach.
And bleach. So we're going to look on the difference between a sanitation and disinfection and something that we use to sterilize. And then you tell me if what you said before, if you still stick with that answer, right? So what is disinfection? It's the destruction of viruses, bacteria, fungi on surfaces that have come in contact with processor skin. Proper disinfection leaves a surface highly unlikely to transmit infection or cause disease. Disinfection is only for non-living surfaces because disinfectants are damaging to the skin. And sterilization is the complete destruction of microscopic life on surface. Chemical sterilization and heat is used in the processing area. So you notice that when the regulatory bodies come to your facility, for those who have a facility, they ensure that you have what kind of surface areas, what should cover your counter.
Stainless steel.
It should be stainless steel, right? Why is that so?
Because it is non-corrosive, or you would say non-absorbent to chemicals.
Non-absorbent, so it cannot seep into the surface.
And non-reactive metal, so what you use on it won't corrode or so on. So it's a non-reactive metal.
Okay, and another important thing is that it can be washed, disinfected, and sterilized with chemical or heat. And also they ensure that you have stainless steel utensils working with. And vinegar is also a good source to use in the food processing facility. So
what are the standards for walls nowadays?
The walls must be washable.
Yeah, but I understand that tiles are no longer they go to now.
Okay, Mr. Clark will speak to the regulatory aspect of that. Mr. Hunter, could you write that question down for me? Thank you.
Sure.
So yes, so heat is also a good way in which you can use to sterilize the area. All right, so we're looking on some cleaning agents, right? Things that we use for cleaning or facility and cleaning or utensils and even cleaning or produce. So acidic cleaning agents is used to remove inorganic deposits like scaling. So we noticed that in Jamaica, our water has a lot of hard calcium in it, sorry, and that can also cause, sorry?
High chlorine. Some places the water having much more chlorine than others.
Yeah. So right throughout Jamaica, you'd find that the chlorine in the water is different, right? And what that causes is calcium deposits to be on the pipes and the surfaces. And we can't have our facility looking like that. So acidic cleaning agent is used to remove that. Alkaline cleaning agent dissolve fats and oils. So if it is a facility that uses a lot of oils, or if you're doing like chips and you have a lot of fat deposits on the equipment, your fryers, you have to use an alkaline cleaning agent to remove the fats. And one of the acidic agent that we have is vinegar or citric acid, and we use ammonia for the fat deposits, right? Some common cleaning agents are water. That's the number one thing. So water, soap, ammonia, hypochlorite, which is commonly called bleach, which is number one thing that we use in our facility because it's affordable to use and it's readily available. And what I must say about this, we must ensure that we are buying bleach and using bleach that has a label. Why? It tells you how much to use and it tells you the concentration of that bleach. Acetic acid, which is vinegar, alcohol, or sodium bicarbonate, which is our baking soda. Good cleaning agents. Our detergents loosen soil from the surface. Some detergents has degreasers in it, and it helps to remove grease. Cleaning agents do not kill bacteria. It only removes the visible dirt or stains, right? And only sanitizers kill bacteria. We have food grade sanitizers sold from different facilities that it's unscented that you can use in the facility. Ideal sanitizers kill microorganisms quickly, it's rinsable, it's economical, it's safe for consumers and acceptable to the regulatory agency. Mr. Clark will speak more on that. It is stable in concentrated form and in solution, and it is safe and non-irritating to employees. Because while we're trying to keep our processing areas clean, we have to ensure that it's not being harmful to the employees as well. Chlorine and chlorine compounds are the most common germicide or sanitizers used in the food processing plant. So, or common bleach. How it is used, it can be used as a sanitizer. You have to ensure that you mix it properly. It's on the labels because different bleaches have different concentrations. So it's usually 1 to 1.5 teaspoons to the gallon of water. Especially if we're using it as a rinse, we can use bicarbonate of sodium bicarbonate, which is baking soda, as well as rinse, and we can use the vinegar as well, depending on the food product that we're trying to clean. Food safe sanitizers are the sanitizers that are to be used in your agro-processing facility. What does it mean? That for it to be food safe, it must be low in odor, as mentioned before. It should be able to eliminate and control the growth of wide range of bacteria and mold. It leaves no odor after use, and it eliminates odor by destroying odor-causing bacteria. Chlorination. Chlorine prevents or reduces microbial buildup. It permits longer hours of operation, so it works longer. It reduces the bacterial count, and it reduces corrosion on metals because we still need to protect our food surfaces. However, when we are using chlorine, it should be measured frequently. So you have somebody can help me with here. I don't remember what it's called, but it is used to, you take a sample of the water and you use it and you measure the amount of chlorine to ensure that we're not using too little or too much. Standard safety measures must be employed. and the flavor of your food product must not be affected by your pouring it. Your food shouldn't taste like bleach after using it to sanitize maybe your bottles or using it to sanitize the food product. The sanitation procedures must be identified and documented on the following. So you must have a sanitation procedure for your tables, your countertops, your bathroom utensils, garbage bins, and equipment. So for example, if somebody from the regulator body or from the Ministry of Health should stop by, you should be able to pull your documents and say, this is how often we sanitize or countertops or tables or garbage bins, because our garbage bin, even though we're putting garbage in it, should be washed and sanitized, and we should have a procedure. So different food processing facility will have different procedures depending on the type of products that you're processing. It depends on your raw material, the frequency, and the amount. So everyone should have a specific procedure or standard that they follow. All employees should know what those standards are, and it should also be documented. Okay, and that takes us to the last slide. And I want to leave this quote with you by Deepak Chopra. Although we take it for granted, sanitation is a physical measure that has probably done more to increase human lifespan than any kind of drug or surgery. And even in this time, things that we're now practicing should be things that we should have been practicing before. Proper hand washing, the frequency of hand washing, sanitizing our hands. Those are things that we should be practicing before, especially as agro-processors. At this point, for those questions that was written down, Mr. Hunter, you can throw them at me for those who have questions, because we have another presentation from Mr. Clark, who will be is from NCRA, who will be covering the regulatory aspect of food safety, right? Any questions?
I just want to say something here. I'm thankful for this presentation. However, sometimes we can be a little bit confused where some of the chemicals are concerned, because at a training at Scientific Research Council, GAP training, we were told that bleach, and we were told a particular bleach that could be used to sanitize our peppers and our raw foods, and that was the Clorox bleach. When I go to the supermarket to purchase it, I noticed all the bottles and only the Clorox bleach carries the little icon on it showing you like a fruit that is being used to sanitize. However, when I go to the health clinic for my food handler's permit, we were told that they didn't know that bleach could use or what have you. And I've been using the bleach since. And that's why I asked the question, where do we get wholesome food grade sanitizers if there are persons who manufacture them? Because some of us as small business persons don't know.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know if I should make recommendations, but I'm gonna tell you where we get sanitizers and food grade sanitizers. I get from a local supplier in Hanover. He is chemicals. He makes chemicals. So you have different places, like you have Minot, which has food grade. You have Wiccan, and I don't know if the other officers in the group has places in their parish, but Minot is in Kingston. Wiccan is in St. James side. Those places are two places that I personally have bought from, and they have the food grade sanitizers, detergents, the deodorized detergents, deodorized sanitizers.
One of the things that we must be aware of is, I think why they give our brand name bleach is because your bleach solution should be at 5%.
Yeah.
Then you can dilute it accordingly to use it on the fruits or vegetable. There are some bleaches on the market that is not of that concentration. So that is one of the things we have to look at, the concentration of the items that we are using.
And also that is why we need to ensure that the bleach or anything that we buy must be properly labeled. The concentration must be on it, and that's why I recommend that you buy from a reputable person. Any questions in the chat, Mr. Hunter?
There's one reason from Miss Melanie Stevenson. I'm going through the chat now to Miss Stevens. Sorry, not Stevenson. I'm going through the chat to identify the questions. We just want to bring on Mr. Clark before he will go through and at the end of his presentation give all of the questions. But Miss Marlene Stevens.
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon or good morning. Sorry, how are you? I'm glad for this forum where I can learn. But I remember probably about 3 weeks ago, I was looking for the sanitizer and the alcohol food grade, and somebody recommended this place in Montego Bay, which I went. I left all the way from St. Mary and I went to Montego Bay. When I got there, most of the stuff were unlabeled. So I don't know what I'm buying, and I'm asking what's in this, what's in that. They don't know.
Okay.
But it's food grade sanitizer, and all they do is you ask for something, they handwrite something, a label, and then stick it on it, and that's what's sold. And it's supposed to be a reputable place.
And they could not provide you with an MSDS sheet because that would list the product.
One thing in particular, and she said to me, I don't know, the stuff are imported and we just bag them out. And we bottle them out.
Even though it was recommended to you as a reputable place, based on your experience, you know otherwise. So what did you do?
I left.
But you didn't purchase?
I purchased one thing, which was bottles, actually, just ordinary bottles.
Okay.
That was it. But I really wanted sanitizers, and I wanted alcohol, and I wanted, because they said 90% alcohol or anything with 90% content is better. They told me, yes, it is, but they had no proof. It's just rebottling, pouring it into an empty bottle, and so on.
And we have to ensure that whenever we're buying your reputation, your product, you have to ensure that these questions are answered and they're answered to your satisfaction, because whenever the regulatory body comes in, they're reviewing your products and what the information that you providing me, because you have to have a MSDS sheet to show as part of your recording system, right? So even though it was recommended and you saw all of that flaws, you have to now find a new person to be your supplier. So you can check those two places. We'll leave our contact information so that we can get more information for you in terms of persons in your area, if there's any, right? So I'm now going to turn over to Mr. Hunter.
But actually, before you turn over, if that is a reputable place with all of those flaws, they should actually be they should report them to the Bureau of Standards.
The right person is coming. Who can speak more on that and perhaps check it out.
All right. Very good presentation, Ms. Wright. Really appreciated the knowledge that you offered to us. At this time, I'd just like to call Miss Camille Ambersley. She's the Home Economics Officer for Westmoreland, and she's going to introduce the next presenter for this session, and we will then take the questions after that. And there will be a training evaluation form that I would like the participants to fill out to, gather some more information how best we can serve you as the agro-processors and, potential business persons out there looking to start, a business in this realm that we are operating in. So at this time, Ms. Ambersley, if you could unmute your mic and.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hunter. Good morning, everybody. Our next speaker has the responsibility to ensure that food processing facilities are in.
Hi, Ms. Ambersley, I'm not sure if it's on my side, but I'm not hearing you so clearly.
No, she's low. You're low, Camille.
Hear me now?
A little better.
Okay, hearing me better now?
No, you need to speak louder.
Okay, you hearing me better now?
No.
What you could do is use an earpiece, or you check the volume on your mic.
I'm using a earpiece. My volume is up and I'm still not hearing her.
No, we were talking to the person.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Our next speaker. Our next speaker has the responsibility to ensure that food processing facilities are in conjunction with food safety standards by monitoring process flows, retail outlets, and certifying of products. He also does inspection of prepackaged foods. Participants on the platform, help me to welcome Mr. Lenworth Clark, Inspector of the National Compliance and Regulatory Compliance Authority, NCRA.
Thank you very much for that introduction. I trust that everyone is hearing me clearly, because the technology goes at times,
We are hearing you, Mr. Clark.
Excellent, because as I said, I had the challenge of trying to get on this morning, and my volume was not working, but I'm happy that persons are hearing me clearly, and I'll go through this presentation as quickly as possible. Again, thank you very much. Morning to everyone. Again, my name is Lenworth Clark, and I will take you through just some basic things as it relates to sanity, food safety to be exact, some amount of sanitation/hygiene from a regulatory viewpoint. But there was a question from the last presentation as it relates to reputable sources of the sanitizer. The word reputable, it depends on...
Mr. Clark, and should we report those persons in breach of the sanitation policies?
All right, I will get to that. I will get to that part. Okay, so as it relates to that aspect, persons, based on what I'm hearing, that is considered as over-the-counter process. And technically, we don't necessarily monitor over-the-counter products. So if you go to a place that has a container, or you can take your own container and put the product inside of it, it's not required that that product has a label on it by law. It's, in a food sense, you go into a patty shop and purchase in a patty. It is not in a labeled container. Or if you go to a regular retail outlet like a corner shop and they're serving you a pound of flour or 2 pounds or 2 pounds of rice, those containers are not labeled because by law they do not have to be labeled. Just making that aspect clear. That's why most of the times you hear speakers speak about pre-packaged commodities. So if they put the same chemical in a container and put it into a store, it must be labeled and labeled properly. So again, the word reputable is used trivially, if I may say, sometimes. So if you go to a source and you recognize that you're not getting what is required, my best thing to say, the best thing to say to you is to see if you can get another source. I oftentimes say this to clients. You, the purchaser, has more power than the regulator. And I explain why. If you do not purchase, they don't sell. So you have more power than us, technically, because they are in the business of selling. If you don't buy, they won't sell. So if you reach at a stage where you see things that are not in conformance, then you don't necessarily have to purchase it. If you, however, go inside a store or any retail outlet, as I said, retail outlet, and the products are not labeled properly, then is where you can report your authority / the Bureau of Standards. And I say / the Bureau of Standards because if you look on your slide or on the screen now, let me
not to break your presentation, Mr. Clark, I just want to make a small input before you
see where
I was saying that not to break your presentation, just a small input before you continue. I will be circulating the training evaluation form. We will be doing it shortly, and you can just, when you get the time out to answer that before the session is over, and we can get back to the session, right? So you can just look out for that in the chat. I'll just put it in there and you can click the link and it carries you straight to the evaluation form. Mr. Clark, you can go ahead. Thanks.
Yeah, because as I said, there has been a change at the Bureau of Standards where the regulatory division, the persons where the inspectors are at, they have removed it, and we are a new entity called the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority, called shortened NCRA. So that's where we're at. So you can either report it to the Bureau or you can report it to the NCRA because we are still in a transition phase. So if the information reaches the Bureau of Standards, they will move it on to us. So you don't necessarily have to worry yourself about it. It's not a matter of we do not regulate the commodities. We regulate it to the point that it reaching the region, it is labeled, or that drum, and it is labeled. But when they know remove it and put it into another container, especially if you take your container, we don't regulate it at that point. I hope you understand, because if you take your own container and they put it inside there, there's nothing, and there's adverse effect. We can't say that it's not your container that caused that problem, or it is the person who you purchase it from. So even if we're taking samples, we would not take it from your container, we would have taken it from the retailer's container to do our investigation. It's a little bit technical, but we have to follow what the law allows us to do. And that's what it basically allows us to do. In the shortest term I can say, we just mainly monitor pre-packaged goods. That's what we monitor. Okay, I trust that that has answered the question earlier. If it's not, maybe at the end of the presentation, you can go ahead and repeat, and I will try my very best to explain further. So again, as I said, I'm an inspector from the National Compliance and Regulatory. Our old logo, now we have a new logo, and the regulatory division of the Bureau of Standards is now called the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority. So we basically do the same function. We use the same law, which is the law of the Standards Act, the Processed Food Act, and the Weights and Measures Act. We can't go out of that. We have to just obey what those laws are until they are amended. We are a statutory body, same way, and we fall under the MICAF, or if they finally split it, we are now under the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Industry and Commerce, but mainly the part about commerce. Just telling you about the NCRA, we have 3 divisions, or 3 inspectorates. We have our Food Safety Inspectorate, we have our Legal Metrology and Petroleum Inspectorate, and our Import and Domestic Commodities Inspectorate. As it indicates, the Food Safety Inspectorate, we deal with food. So we go to the big food factories to do our inspection. And then again, these are pre-packaged food inspections, pre-packaged food establishment, I should say. So you would not see us at a Jerkman conducting an inspection. You don't necessarily see us as KFC or Burger King or Mother's conducting, or probably Tasty's outlet or Juicy outlet to do inspection, because we do not consider those products as pre-packaged goods. However, if I may add, we would have gone to the bakery that does the bread for Burger King. We would have gone to the the meat processing facility that does the meat for the burger. So all the chicken that persons purchase would have gone to the Best Dress and the CBs to conduct our inspection before it actually reaches you. And even the flour that makes the product would have gone to flour mill to conduct our inspection before it actually reaches those retail outlets. So you can rest assured that the products that you are consuming, they are of safe quality. So that's what the Food Inspectorate deals with. When it comes on to our Legal Metrology and Petroleum Inspectorate, they are the ones who deal with weighing and measuring devices. So if you have a processing facility, we will come in and we will check on your scales that you have to ensure that if you say that is a pound, that your pound of flour that you're serving is actually a pound that you are actually receiving. They also go to gas stations and ensure that each nozzle there are dispelling petroleum or petrol that is of the correct amount. So if you buy a liter of gas, we are ensuring that is a liter of gas that you get. As you can see on screen, you have these stickers. So you can look out for them at the gas station. You have the big ones at the gas station, and you have the smaller ones at the supermarkets that you can actually look out for to see that those devices were tested and certified. We have the Import and Domestic Commodities Inspectorate. They are the ones who are at the ports of entry, aka WAF, or we can be at the airport inspecting goods that come in to ensure that they are following any standard specification that is established. They are also the ones that are at the retail outlets, at your gas stations, your supermarket, in your stores, ensuring that products are labeled correctly, or if it misses the ports of entry or it misses the inspection from the food safety inspector, they are also there as a quote unquote backup to products that are not conforming, establishment that are not registered with the Bureau of Standards. That's why the domestic market team is actually there. As a matter of fact, they do package checking to see that whenever persons say that if it is 50 grams, it's actually 50 grams that you're actually getting out there. Because in truth and in fact, from the food safety inspector, we cannot be at the factory every day or every moment. So persons will try to do shorthand stuff. So we have our Import and Domestic Commodities Inspectorate that are out island-wide to conduct those inspections. That is just an overview of what the NCRA is about. The regulatory division of the Bureau of Standards is now called the National Compliance and Regulatory Authority, the NCRA. You will hear about us. We do not change our functions from the Bureau. We conduct our regulatory activities same way, using the Standards Act, the Processed Food Act, and the Weights and Measures Act. So tell everybody that you see. I want the word to share. And at the end, I have the website and all our social media handles that you can also join us on. Okay. Which would you rather be after you consume some food? Would you rather to be the one on your left or the one on your right? You eat some food, eat a piece of bread, you eat some sausage or frankfurter. Which would you rather be? Would you rather to be the one on your left that is sick or the one on the right that is happy? I can guarantee that majority, if not all persons here, would rather to be happy after you have consumed some food. You don't want to be sick. Neither do you want your family members, if they consume something, they to be sick, because that costs you time and it's going to cost you some money, and possibility lies that it might even cost your life. And we do not want that. Would you consume any of this? Would you consume a bread with a roach on it? Would you consume with flies on it? Would you consume these things? I doubt it very much. With all of those mold growth, I doubt you would want to consume or any of these images that you are seeing here on your screen. I like the face-to-face interaction because I would have gotten the answer for all of this. But nonetheless,
Yes, so please change it. It is disgusting bad.
What the images? But these are true images. These are true images of how things can be with food. And then I know you would not consume any of this. And my apologies for the images, but I'm just showing you how things can be at times. And we have seen similar stuff, believe it or not. So it is food. What is food? And we define food as any substance, whether processed, semi-processed, or raw, which is intended for human consumption. I'm hearing talking in the background. Yeah. And this includes drink, chewing gum, or any substance that is manufactured or treated or food, but it doesn't talk about like cosmetics or tobacco or any substance that is used for a drug. So your tablets, that is not, we don't consider that as food. What we consider as food is anything that is processed, semi-processed, or raw, which is intended for human consumption. So your regular sugar, flour, potato chips, and you can see the images there online, your milk, your jams, your jellies, your marmalade, those are what is defined as food. But you have food, but you also want safe food, because if you have the food and the food is not safe, then it basically makes no sense. And what is food safety? It is the assurance that food will not cause harm to the consumer when it's prepared and or eaten according to its intended use. Basically saying it is food that is safe to be consumed. So the ones that we saw earlier, remember them? These are not safe food, but we want to ensure that food that you have, that you are consuming at all times, that it is safe. And safe food is food that is free from contaminants and will not cause harm, injury, or illness, and even cause death. Do not want that. We want you to consume safe food at all times. So in doing so, you have different agencies that deals with food safety. And you have the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And you have different organizations or departments in our sense, and sometimes units and authority that actually makes up the Ministry of Health. So you have the local public health department, and as you can see on screen, the National Public Health Lab, because you're wondering how the lab comes in. The public health department will come out, they will take the sample, but if they take the sample, how are you going to know that the food is safe? You probably have to test it. So the lab is very important. Chemicals also can be harmful substances, which we will get into later on. So the Pesticide Control Authority is important. And we have the other agencies or units or authority that you can see on screen that actually deals with food safety. But this is just under the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Under the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture, and Fisheries, or they now split it, as I said, you have these agencies that deals with food safety, the Bureau of Standards, Consumer Affairs Commission, FSPID, the agency that I work at, the NCRA. Again, we have PCA already, but again, we also have the plant quarantine, and we have plant protection, and we have RADA, because they are also important, because we might just think that it is persons who do regulatory work that is important for food safety. No, the education around it is also important. So rather putting on this session is part of your overarching food safety initiative. And as I said, we can go on to the other agencies, as you can see there. Other government agencies, and these persons generally even conduct some training and or testing. You have the Caribbean Food Nutrition Institute, you have the Central Board of Health, and we can go on, you have the local health department, you have again SRC, and you have the University of the West Indies. Why are these important? Again, you have to educate persons. You also have UWI that has a lab that conduct testing on food products to ensure that they are safe. Another, you have private institutions too. You have technological solutions that conduct tests. You have others that you can actually look at, and other testing agencies that you have that conduct the overall testing. You have others too that provide advice like QSSI. You have other private consultants who provide food safety information and can guide you as best as possible for you to ensure that whenever a consumer consumes your product, the food is safe. So we have food safety, but in order to understand what food safety is about, we have to speak about the hazards that will cause a food not to be safe. And what is a hazard? It's a biological, chemical, or physical agent in or condition of food food with the potential to cause harm or adverse health effect. So that is what a hazard is. And it can be either biological, chemical, physical hazard, and allergen. But the allergen can face between a physical or a chemical because it's a chemical reaction that causes the problem, or sometimes it can be physical and it causes harm to a person. As you can see, we break it down a little bit more here. Where you have the microbiological, you have the chemical, you have the physical, and you have the allergen. As you can see from the microbiological aspect, you can have foodborne illnesses like E. coli. So persons will go to the bathroom and they do not wash their hands properly, because I don't want to take it that they don't wash their hands, but they do not wash their hands properly. And then possibility lies that feces, the past feces might get on their hand and then they transfer it to the product. And sometimes we test the product and we do see E. coli, and E. coli come from intestinal waste. You also have the chemicals, and it can either be, again, artificial or natural. So it can be like your cleaning agent. So we, during the presentation earlier, you hear about the bleach that you can't put too much. So you have to be very specific or follow the instructions of how you should use it. Because too much bleach can cause adverse health effect. And if it's too less, then what will happen? The effectiveness of cleaning will not happen. So you have to ensure that you follow and obey the instructions that you get on it. And again, it can cause food poisoning and it can cause chronic illness. And you can see the agents is there, the cleaning agent, the examples, the cleaning agent, pesticide, weed killers, additive, or poisonous food. Because you probably know, and I think it's in the presentation later on, you have hypoglycemia in ackee, too high, that can cause adverse effect. And I think the cyanide in cassava can also. So those are chemical hazards. It's not a matter if you, some of these hazards that you're trying to eliminate, but you reduce it to the amount that is acceptable by humans. You have the physical hazard that can cause a cut in your mouth, or it can break your teeth, or it can cause internal injuries. That is like glass or a piece of board or string or your jewelry. That's why we tell persons do not wear your jewelry inside your processing area, because if it falls off in the product, you can have somebody consuming it and damage the inside of their body, whether it be cutting it, breaking your teeth, etc., etc. You also have the allergens, and there's also something showing you the list of allergens in this presentation. And it could be your milk, your eggs, your shellfish, your gluten, all of these things that is listed there. And it can just cause adverse reaction in your immune system. So you might eat some peanut or some nuts, or eat fish, and you have persons who start to have swelling all over their bodies, or you see some fine bumps coming up, and some persons have big bumps. I actually had a team leader that from once she eats pineapple, she you just see her mouth start to swell. Moment it touches like in her mouth, you just see the mouth start to swell, her eyes start to get swell, all of her face just start to swell because she have an allergic reaction to that food. Pineapple is not necessarily a part of the allergen, but I just use that as an example. I know persons from once they consume peanut, the same reaction. From once they consume any shell food, that's the adverse reaction that they do get. You have persons too is that if they consume some of these things, they might have a running belly and all of those. Some persons are lactose intolerant, amongst other things. What are microbiological hazards? And these are there. You have bacteria, you have viruses, you have molds, and you have parasites. And I just give you some example of how things persons may react to these microbiological hazards, and basically where they are coming from. That's why you have to ensure that your things, whatever you're doing, your surfaces are clean. You have to ensure that you get things from reputable sources, etc., etc. A little bit later, you will learn some more. So again, microbiological hazard, they do multiply, and they are spore germinators. So what are the factors that actually affect these? You have time and temperature, you have the pH, you have the water activity, you have oxygen, nutrient, and even the shape and size of the container. And you have even some preservative that will allow things to multiply. But the top 6 are the most significant ones in terms of the time at which you the time at which how long you process a food and at which temperature you're doing it. Is important that you do not have microbiological growth, the water activity level. So you want, if you're doing like dehydration, you know, if you do dehydration and the water activity is low, then you'll find that that product will actually last longer, and it's more difficult for bacteria in particular to multiply. So what are control measures? So you need to keep food out of the danger zone, and I will show you the danger zone later on. So you minimize time at room temperature. You remove moisture. I spoke about the dehydration, and you can add preservatives, whether it be salt or sugar, or you can destroy those organisms via heat processing or cooking, or you can do cleaning or disinfectant, or you can do irradiation. This is how you can get rid of the microbiological hazards, or some ways in which you can get rid of it or reduce the amount that will cause any injury or harm to humans. We now reach in terms of chemical, and I think I went through all of this already, but it can be present in raw materials, whether it be like the pesticides. So let us look at callaloo, for example. Somebody cut callaloo, but they didn't wait until the period of time to reap it, or you know, because they spray it and they didn't wait until the time to reap it elapsed. So what they do, they cut it. Or you find persons transporting raw materials along with pesticide. You can also have that situation. You have metals in fish. You have antibiotics. So you have a cow and you give the cow some antibiotic in your raw material, natural toxin, as I mentioned earlier, like your hypoglycine in akis. Those are natural toxin. The contamination during preparation. So a vehicle comes and reverse and the toxic fumes because you leave your doors open whilst processing, and the fumes get inside. Persons do not use the chemical agents properly, so you didn't obey the instructions. Again, we look at pesticide already, but the excessive additives, and also you have the migration from packaging to the food. So you have a good food, but the package that you place that food in the chemical from that package is actually moving to your product, it actually cause some amount of chemical hazard. Again, we spoke about these already as it relates to the chemicals, the natural occurring ones. You can look at it. It can be Clostridium botulinum. In cans, at the top you have the cyanide and the hypoglycine again, basically telling you where you can where some of these are actually found. I'm trying not to get too technical in my presentation. You have compounds too, such as preservative, and it includes even your own nitrate. If I may pause here to give a story, there was this time that someone from Argentina came to Jamaica, and they saw a container with sodium nitrate in it, and they put it on their meat, but they couldn't get much taste of it. And what happened eventually, they put more and they put more, and they eventually died after consuming that meat. So yes, it is important that your preservatives are on your product or in your product, but too much of it can cause harm to humans when consumed. And if you have too little of it in your product, then your product might start to deteriorate before the expiry date, or what we consider as the date of minimum durability. Again, your colorings, your nutritional additives such as vitamins, too much of these can cause harm. Again, you have some products that you say included on labels. It's talking about your packages / your labels, because some products the label is actually on the package itself, and some of that can migrate from the package onto the food product itself. You have physical hazards, as you can see here. Physical hazards. Yes, you can wear glasses inside the processing area. We just have to be careful that it doesn't fall off in your food product. You don't have like things flaking from even your glasses, your glass handle, dropping off in the product. Be careful about the glass, the wood fragments, insect fragment, filth, meaning rodent filth, because we have tested products. I've gotten results from testing products where we have seen filth inside the product, and it actually is rodent filth. So you just try your very best that all of the extraneous matter or foreign matter does not get into your product, because it can cause injury or harm. People can choke on it, and persons can actually die from all of this. And these are some others who, persons working in the area. Somebody from the office comes in the processing area, and the clips and all of these. So all of these are considered as physical hazard. As you can see, the persons, and it might even eventually become chemical hazard too. But persons with nail polish, you might have the nail polish flaking off. That can be a physical hazard, but you can also have it getting in there, and the chemicals within from the nail polish itself that cause some amount of chemical reaction inside of it and cause some amount of harm to the consumer. Raw ingredients, again, as you can see, the building, the flaking off of the paint, or you have the roof that is falling into sections of it falling inside your product. You can have even the equipment that you use. So you maybe have a propeller that is spinning inside a tank, and the blades are actually hitting the side of the tank, and you have fine metal fragments that gets inside your product. The last one that you can see there, and I hope I'm not moving too fast, you have sabotage. So that's why we encourage persons to close away the chemicals, and I hope I'm not going all about the place. Close away the chemicals, and it's only certain persons that have access to it. Because if you have a worker inside your processing area and something goes down with your worker, that worker might decide to pour some bleach inside your product or pour whatever chemical that might not be detected at sight inside that food, and it might cause harm to someone. Or, as I said, somebody might just decide to sabotage you, and they're there and they see some screwdrivers, or they see nail lying about, and then just throw it inside the product. So you have to be careful too about the whole issue of sabotage from your employees. Again, we talk about allergic foods, and you have here, you have a listing, you have 12. Some countries speak about the big 8. Some persons speak about the big 10. You know, the list continues to go on and on and on. And as you can see, you have the peanut, you have the tree nut, the milk, the eggs, the fish. We can get the soy, we can go to sesame seed, and we can go to all of these. The mustard, the celery, all of these can be allergic food, are seen as allergic food. If you look in this one, you actually see wheat. Wheat is seen as food, allergic food. The control measures that we use, and this is for allergen, but it can actually be used all around for any one of the hazard. Reputable supplier. You need to get things from a reputable supplier. And reputable mean, again, just anybody, but they must have as reputable. And as processors, one of the things I encourage persons to do is to do your own research. Do your research. Do research on your supplier. Try and avoid contamination and and cross contamination. Any one of them, and this is done by separating stuff. You can do segregation. You can ensure that your package are satisfactory. You can separate your utensils from your cloth. You can use color coding. I have gone into establishment to see where red bins are for waste, gray bins are for food products, white bins is for raw material. So persons do different things in their establishment. You need to ensure that you do effective cleaning, and your staff need to train, and washing needs to be practiced by both staff and visitors. And the visitors also include your regulator. So don't allow persons to just walk in your establishment, whether that be persons who are advising you or they are regulators. If they are getting in your establishment, they need to do all of the sanitary things, just like what your staff would have been doing. Again, I say here, what is wrong here? And one of this picture, maybe you know which one, was actually taken in Jamaica. Can't have persons processing and they do not have shirt on.
No.
Yeah.
No, no clothes.
No, not food. Also, as much as the picture to your right, as much as you see it it's in a container, that container should be elevated. The blue container should be elevated from off the floor. Because I've gone even in this same processing area, what they started to do, or it can also be elevated and covered. What happened is that somebody started to wash out the area, and the things that they were spraying on the water that they were spraying on the floor was just getting inside the container with the fish. So one, it needs to be elevated, so it actually needs to be on the pallet. The person that is standing on the pallet, so they are the reverse. So the person is actually standing on the pallet where the fish is supposed to be on. So it's actually the container the fish is supposed to be on the pallet, and the person is supposed to be standing on the ground. Even though this is heavily used water place, the floor is actually pitted too. So you can have mold growth whenever you have pitted areas. And these molds can, after getting airborne, can contaminate other areas or contaminate even your food itself. This is another one, and 3 of them was taken were taken in Jamaica. Generally, I'll ask which one you think, but 3 of them were taken in Jamaica. One was not. One, the package is left open, anything is possible for things to get inside of it. So after you finish using this, cover it up. That's the first picture. The one at the top to your right, you see the person using the hand wash sink to wash their container. That should not be allowed. You should have an area specifically to wash your containers, different from you using your hand. Now you see this guy, they have bread, and this guy actually lying down on the bread or sleeping on the bread, and he's also barefooted. This is a no. The one to your right bottom, this is actually was taken into ice container. So this produces ice, and those where you see those dark spots, the ice actually falls through here. So a lot of persons say, when you're younger, say ice not carry germs. Don't listen to that, nothing like that. Because if unclean water is used to produce the ice, and when it melts in your drink, it can cause harm to you. And if you produce ice and it is coming through unclean area like these mold growths that is there, it gonna contaminate the ice and pass it on. And this ice was actually used in a product. So the ice is used as a raw material in a product. And also, it is showing all of that.
Seriously?
Somebody said something? Condensation that is taking place, which means that they would have turned off or unplugged the fridge. So you have some amount of condensation that is taking place. And if you have a dirty ceiling and you have condensation taking place, when it goes up, when the water is falling, when the condensed water is falling, then you find out that you will contaminate your product. So what happened in most of this time, I can tell that this one was taken in Jamaica. I actually took samples of the ice and take it to our laboratory. I won't tell you the results though. So you will hear about GMPs or GMP. It is considered to be good manufacturing practices. And what is it? It's a set of procedures that ensure that food is processed in a manner that meets food safety, quality, and legal requirements. So this is what GMPs, and GMPs addresses your environmental control. So the flow of the air in your processing facility, the layout of your production equipment, the the building itself, as it relates to, do you have mesh at the mesh at the windows? The overall practices of how you clean, what is happening inside that processing facility. It also takes into consideration personal practices, whether it be personal hygiene, and I think Miss Wright said that she went through that, so I won't go through it in any details. Also, all things happen during shipping, and shipping don't necessarily mean that it's just on a ship, but the whole transportation, I should say, of your product from your supplier to yourself. Even if it is you taking it up, you do not want person to be transporting products, again, with chemicals being stored there, or in a transportation that is not clean. The way in which you receive the product is also important. The way in which you handle the product, and the way in which you store the product, the temperature at which you store it, the area at which you store the product. All of these lead up to good manufacturing practices. Pest control. You need to control the pests at your facility, if there are any, and different establishment require different kind of pest control, because if you are doing water, you don't necessarily need as much pest control as in if you were doing syrup, because when you're doing syrup, you might have more ants, more rat, you're going to see more flies, you might even see bees, because in this sense, bees would be a pest, or it is a foreign object. So you will see the bees in this sense as a physical hazard. And again, I would just say you control the food, you control the people. So if you're doing food, you're going to attract insect. So you are pest in and of itself, pest. So you need to ensure that you have adequate pest control in place. Sanitation is also a part of your GMP, and I think Ms. Wright went through that. You need to also maintain your equipment. So you need to follow the instructions in the manual of how to maintain the equipment. If you don't have, you probably need to look at your equipment and come to a decision on how you're going to maintain your equipment, especially the ones with moving parts. Recall and traceability. You need to have those systems in place. So just in case there's a recall, you know what to do, and you're able to trace the product where it's located. So in our inspection, what we ask for this, we ask for a recall procedure that you have in place, or a protocol, or we ask for like your production records, because we need to know how much product that you produce. We look at your batch codes, look at your expiry date, and all of those will lead to good traceability. Water safety, we encourage persons to test their water that comes in your facility as much as possible. Again, different operation will require different amount of testing, because again, it depends on if you use water in your process, or the amount of water that you actually use in your process. As I stated earlier, we speak about the temperature danger zone. And as you can see on screen, the temperature danger zone is between 5 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. And the Fahrenheit equivalent is actually there. And in this zone, food poisoning bacteria can grow to unsafe level that will make you sick. So they actually show you where the danger zone is. You can see it right there in red, and I ensure that I put all of these danger zones in red to show you how critical or important it is. Get a little bit further. Leaving food out for too long may cause bacterial growth.
Clark, can I
Yes.
What is the ideal temperature for pasteurization using
You mean
pasteurization?
ultra high temperature? You mean
Yes, sir.
which kind of pasteurization you talking?
What I'm thinking of is to pasteurize.
Okay, again, I can definitively say that this
pepper sauce using heat.
Heat processing.
Yes, sir.
Again, it depends on the product itself. I don't want to be very specific because different regulation give you different time and temperature to a particular product. And I can't say it offhand, a specific product. That's why it is important that you do what we consider as a prototype and you do checks on your product and you probably get scientific evidence to support your claim as it relates to pasteurization. Because when you're doing a juice pasteurization, it's going to be different from if you're doing a sauce. And again, the viscosity of the product will also have all of those important factors. But I do not want to because you see temperature danger zone here, you mix it up with pasteurization. This is totally different. Different. Temperature danger zone is different from the actual pasteurization. This is just basically telling you. I can hardly hear the person.
Yes, I'm asking if the temperature danger zone is referring to storage.
Some amount of storage. How do you store your product? At which temperature do you store your product? This is not processing your product.
Okay, thanks, man.
Okay. So, because as you can see, bacteria grows most rapidly in the range of temperature between 5 degrees Celsius and 60 degrees Celsius. As you can see, it doubles in every 20 minutes. So what we do, you keep food out of the danger zone. So you say never leave food out of the fridge over 2 hours. And when we say food, again, it also includes your raw materials. If the temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit, food should not be left out for more than 1 hour. They say keep hot food hot and cold food cold. And again, as I said, this also includes your raw material. So if you get a raw material that's supposed to be in the refrigerator, you keep it in the refrigerator. If you can stay at room temperature, that is okay. But if it's supposed to be hot, you're supposed to keep it hot. It's like, let I look at like a finished product that's supposed to be kept hot, like a rotisserie chicken. If it needs to be hot, a processed rotisserie chicken needs to be kept hot. You can, and then what needs to be cold is like ice cream. So if it should be cold, it should be kept cold. And it tells you here that 0 to 2 hours, you use immediately or keep at or below 5 degrees Celsius or above 60 degrees. 2 to 4 hours, use immediately. If you have anything that is over 4 hours out or out of its specific range, you need to throw it away because that can cause some of that product. So you know that you're going to get some ice cream or even ice cream base or milk, and it needs to be in a refrigerator, needs to be refrigerated. So you're going to plan ahead and have space inside your refrigerator to keep it there. Keep your fridge at or below 5 degrees Celsius. Check the instructions. You need to check your instructions too. to ensure that you're following the correct instructions that are listed. So you need to keep hot food at or above 60 degrees. Can't talk about this anymore, but the cold foods are even more important though. So you divide food up into divide food. So if you can divide the food into smaller portion because it cools quicker. Keep food on the move. So you basically if you are processing, because it's not just about just storage. If you're actually processing, the danger zone is actually also comes into play. So you need to ensure that if the food needs to move from this temperature to the next, or need to move from this part of the line to the next, you just keep the food moving. And it is important to note that if you are in doubt, throw it out. Lots of persons don't like to hear this, especially if you're going to lose your money, but you do not want to have a situation where you cause harm to anyone that consumes your product and they actually files a lawsuit on you, or the regulators start an investigation and they now have to withdraw and dispose of the food that you have because you were in doubt and you did not throw it out. This here, and I hope I'm not all over the place, speaks about foodborne illnesses, and it's an infection or irritation of your gastrointestinal tract. And it's caused by bacteria, again, parasites, chemicals, and it's also called food poisoning. I do not know if anybody here, inside here, have ever gotten food poisoning. I've had food poisoning before, and it has caused me to have some amount of diarrhea. I never vomited, but have some amount of abdominal pain, and it can also have fever, and you can also have chills from it. And I list here some key foodborne pathogens, as you can see here, and the presentation will be shared with you so you can actually do your research about it. And I have also spoken about some of them earlier. That's basically the end of my presentation. I trust that you have learned something throughout this presentation. If you need further information about, especially about the NCRA, we have our head office at 19 Hope Road in Kingston. We also have 4 regional offices, one in Montego Bay, one in Mandeville, one in Ochi, and one in Savannah Lamar. As you can see at the bottom, it speaks about our Technical Information Center, and that is actually located at 19 Hope Road. So you can go ahead and read the standards that are there, and there are some amount of international standards that you can, also read. We are actually on social media. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter, we also are on Instagram. We also have a WhatsApp line, which is 2896272. You can visit our website at www.ncra.org.jm. And if you need more information, you can email us at info@ncra.org.jm. I just trust that I have been clear on the matters presented. If you do have any questions, you can go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark, for giving this information from NCRA. It was very good information that you presented today. We appreciate collaboration very much, and we still look forward to working with NCRA in the future where possible. Now, before I turn over to Mr. McGregor, the director of the SPDC, and business development officer at the corporate office. I just want to take this opportunity to find out from our participants online if we have any questions. This is the question and answer segment. So if there is any questions that you want to ask, you can do so to our presenters still online.
I see a Nicole James hand raised.
Yes,
Right.
good afternoon.
Afternoon.
My question is this, based on the allergic reaction that you were talking about. So what if a person has bought something at a reputable place, and they after heating whatever they had an allergic reaction. This person did not know that they were allergic to any ingredient or potent in whatever they had purchased and consumed. What are the action taken and what is done about it?
Okay. If I may, all right. So based on what I've known, all right, if you have an allergic reaction, then we encourage persons to first reach out to who you purchase from. Because we are of the firm belief that no one wants to produce a product to harm anyone.
Right.
So the first thing is to reach out to the person who you purchase the product from.
Right.
If the person did not address the situation based on your liking, you have the right to contact Consumer Affairs Commission because it's a problem now. Then Consumer Affairs Commission will or should find the relevant agency to do or conduct that investigation. And it could be the NCRA or the Bureau of Standards. It could be the public health that needs to get in. It could be FSPID. It could be Pesticide Control Authority, or it could be a combination of any of those agencies. So one of the best approach to do it is to reach out to the establishment. If you still feel aggrieved by the position by taken, you have all right to contact Consumer Affairs Commission, and then they should take it from there.
Okay then. Well, I love that answer. And also something that happened to me a couple of years back when I was going to school, and I went to a place to purchase something. Me and my friends, we purchased patty at a place, very prominent. And we're like every weekend we will go and we will buy what we want. And for some reason, on that particular day, we purchased some stuff. But what I realized, there was like a mold on my food, because I normally check my stuff before I eat because I like searching my stuff. And I searched and I found out that there was a mold on one of what I was eating. So I placed it back in the stuff that I got it in, and I said, my friends, you need to check what you're eating and see if it's okay. In our little section there, we got up, we went up to the desk, and we called one up. We said, can I speak to the supervisor in charge? And she was saying, what's the problem? So I said, okay, I'm having an issue here. This is somewhere we normally eat. And I realized that there's something on what we're eating. Can you change it or whatever? She behaved the way. So we asked for the supervisor. When the supervisor came, it was not even good. We did not get good answers either. So we said, all right, is there a manager here? So the assistant manager came out and we were speaking to him and telling what was happening. And I'm telling you, I did not get a good response because it wasn't a point where I went and we were making noise because the place was crowded and people were eating. And I was just thinking that, okay, if I pointed out this to them calmly and nicely, they could just take back the stuff and just give us back something different to eat so that we could just, it would be okay. But they didn't. And they behave away there where, and they got on the security. So I said, okay then. So she said, I'm gonna get the security to get you out of here. So I said, people, this is not nice, because I came up to the counter. Did anyone hear me? And they were saying no. And I said something was wrong with my food, and I'm speaking to these people so nicely, and they choose not to, whatever. So after I just came out of this, I said, security, don't touch me. And I left. And when we left, about a week later, the place was closed down because I think it was the same reason other persons went in there and they did not get good answers. So this is the thing. We have places in Jamaica, anywhere, and you will probably go to them nicely and you will speak, but they will refuse to do the right things. And sometimes you don't want to shut down these places, but the approach for certain things, and I think business owners and workers in business places need to be thoroughly trained, thoroughly trained in their work area. From the head going down, especially when you're angling with the public, they need to be very much trained. And from that date until now, I don't go out and eat. I don't go out and eat. It's like I'm terrified of going out and eat. It's like I have to watch and observe and see a lot of stuff before I even try and eat. So if I go somewhere, I will be there for hours and come back home and probably I'll end up with gas because I'm not eating out because of this experience.
It's just unfortunate that that happened, but they have lost a customer in the process of that.
Mm-hmm.
And in the advent of social media, what a lot of persons would have done is to just go on and broadcast that, whether it be on their Facebook page or their Twitter page or their Instagram page, so they would probably lose more customer. Again, for me, and this is just my personal position, I try my very best to shop at places that don't really give me much problem at the end of the day. That's what I do. So, and it's not just food alone, it's everything. You don't find me purchasing my even my appliances anyway. But that's just me anyway, because I can't manage the back and forth with persons. All right, but thank you very much for sharing that experience with us. I think I see Watkins, and I don't want to take over your meeting either, but I see another hand.
Mr. Clark, I had asked a question earlier, and I was told you would answer it. I was asking, what are the new standards for walls in our food processing plant?
Standard for the new standard. They don't necessarily. I don't know of a new standard in for walls. It's just that it needs to be impermeable. That's what the standards generally say, and it needs to be easily clean, and it needs to be clean.
Well, somebody was saying to me that I know we usually use tiles on the wall, but I'm told that has been changed recently. That's why I'm asking.
Not what I know of. Again, it depends on your processing facility that you are in. So I can't say to you that you should use tiles or you should not use tiles. It's just, again, depending on what product you are doing. If you are doing if you're and even the system within your processing area will make a determination, because if you have closed system where the product has nothing to do with the wall, you make like I know you're small processing processes, but when we go to like a rum factory that the molasses is out there, the next thing you actually see is the rum at the end. You don't see anything at all. It has no contact. You really and truly can't tell them that you can't use tiles on your walls. So again, it depends on the process that you're actually doing. But if you're going to have now where you're I do not know if I can't say specifically. I would have to see it and say to you, oh, you cannot use wall, you cannot use tiles on your wall. But from based on my experience, I'm not seeing any problem with it. Is it flaking off? Is the growth that you use in it blowing all over the place? Those are some of the factors you'll have to look into.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Clark. There's a Eunice Watkins with her hand up.
I thought she was the person who spoke a while ago.
Okay, and Laura Lee Leslie?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is Miss Watkins. The person that speak before wasn't Miss Watkins. My question was, if someone purchase your product, I do agro processing. I do turmeric and ginger and like breadfruit flour, natural juices. Say someone purchase a juice from you. The juice is properly labeled, properly packaged and sealed. You sell it to the individual, and by the individual walk away, the individual open the juice and bring it back to you. Doesn't taste it or anything, but they are saying they didn't like that one. Is it necessary that you give the person what the person wants and take back that product from the person and there's nothing wrong with the product?
That comes under maybe customer service. So your establishment will have to make that determination, because if the product is safe and they made a legitimate purchase, then I can't say to you that you should exchange it, especially owing to the fact that you'd have been at a loss, because nothing is wrong with the product. They made a legitimate purchase and they just want it to be changed after opening it. I can't see anywhere in the regulation that will cover that. That will have to come under your customer service aspect. So you decide that, hey, I'm going to change it because I do not want to lose this customer. Or you can probably say no, because it's really and truly not the fault of the establishment.
Okay.
What we need to note also, if you decide that you're going to take back the product and give them another one, the one that they want, you have to discard the one that you took back from them. So it will be your loss.
Yes, definitely.
And I would recommend too, in that instance, that you could write off that product as what you call it, an advertisement or something, because it's a cost.
Right.
So you could write off that product, because you are going to have to file tax and that's money going down. So you could write it off as an advertisement.
Yeah.
Instead of throwing it away, you could write it off as if it's a giveaway.
Okay, thanks much.
Ms. Sharon McFarlane, you can go ahead.
Can I say?
Hello, good afternoon. On the matter of the walls and the floor and the use of tiles, I was told some time ago that the use of tiles is not recommended on the floor in a processing facility or on the wall because it does not facilitate easy cleaning because microbes can attach themselves to the growth in those areas. So I would just need some clarity on that matter. Maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, I was told that.
Okay. All right. So as I said, and I repeat, it depends on your process. It all depends on your process. If you are doing dry goods, dehydrated product, I can see how you really find microbes growing where dehydrated products are. If it is a product that use a lot of water, then I would see a situation. But I've seen persons tile their areas, but what happened is that they have adequate drainage, so the water runs off quickly. So you do not have a buildup. Where you have like areas where you have settling of water, that is where you have the microbial growth. So I'm not going to say to you, don't use tile, use tile. Is maybe not the best thing for when you're doing water or things that use a lot of liquid. So you have to have wet floors most of the times. It might not be ideal. But if you are doing dry products, things that use little to no water, then there's no problem with it from once it's not flaking.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to ask some information here. My product is seasoning and sauces. And I have been trying to move these products around for quite some time. I've been developing these products for 15 years. A lot of people have been eating them in Jamaica and abroad. And I have gone ahead and procured some markets that are waiting on me. They were done out of my kitchen, however. And at the time before COVID, the Bureau would not approve my kitchen for the processing. Now that COVID has allowed, thank God for COVID, they have decided that they would allow me to process out of my kitchen if I retrofit the kitchen to suit the standards.
Oh, so that's a different case because you don't retrofit the kitchen to fit.
Right. It was done out of my ordinary kitchen it was done out of a cottage industry.
Right. That's what we consider them as. That's cottage industry.
Right.
Because of all my years there, I have gone through a lot of persons' kitchen that they are actually processing from. A little greater cake, coconut drops, all of those small. People even do potato pudding. They just bake it and they put it into a bag. They leave it to cool, put it into a bag. Persons have repackaged seasoning in their kitchen. Persons have known jams, jellies, marmalade that persons have done in their kitchen, and they have passed. I do not know, as you say, you probably retrofit it now to meet the standard.
No, it's in the process now. It's in the process now because Business Development Center came and inspected because I've written a project on it. Right. So they have approved. They said to me that I'm to retrofit the kitchen and then I'm to call in the Scientific Research Council for them to go through the formulation with me.
For the sauce.
Right. And then they would come in and give me the approval.
Right. Because the sauce is an acidified food. And our standards say that if you're doing an acidified food or a low acid food, low acid canned food to be exact, then what happens is that you ought to get a written formula from a competent authority approved by the Bureau.
Yes.
So an SRC is one of those institutions.
Plus, I'm also a part of
process.
Plus, I'm also a part of the Jerk Association.
Okay.
So I am in the process of getting the kitchen up. The equipments are about here. They are not here in the island yet, but they are being bought abroad and so forth. But I heard you said something about getting your product, especially your food safe product. Can you bring the charger for me, please? Your food safe product approved, maybe some health certification to it. You were saying that there are some other agency that can give you certification that it is safe.
No, not necessarily. I don't want to say certification because certification is a different thing. They test your products.
Okay. Yeah.
So they just test it to see you have a standard that say it should be this amount. They just basically test it and then we now look at the standard to see if it's actually meeting it. So it's not certification. Certification is a different process. But you do have labs who do test. You do have accredited labs. Other than the Bureau of Standards lab, you do have other labs that can test your product and they are accredited to do those tests.
When do you do that? After the Bureau or before the Bureau come to approve your
product? All right, so one of the best thing to do is to have your products tested to see how they are performing. Whether you want to do a microbiological analysis on it, which most persons generally do, or if you just want to see what type of, if you want to do nutritional facts analysis on it. Nutritional facts, however, is optional in Jamaica. No, it was ratified and then you still have to have nutritional facts on every product. But besides that, generally persons do microbiological analysis before they do come. But I'm going to be clear with you, the law doesn't say that you ought to, but it's one of the best practice.
Okay, I just want to know what steps to take first, because we've been using it and I want to, because in the market out there, people will come and take your product and take it to test it, and at the same time, they can do a lot of things to it.
I don't think you mean like if you sell your product out on the market, they purchase it and go ahead and test it?
Yes.
And do what in particular with the product?
All right, I've seen products in Canada, new products in Canada where they go in the supermarket, they take it and they have some persons who go around and they test it, and sometimes they come back and say this product is not safe. Well, the product is approved here, and I want to know that my product is safe with with everything before I really go out there. I want to take different steps.
The other thing, and I know sometimes it's confusing, but different countries have different regulation as it relates to certain products. Yes, safety is right across the world, but as I said, different countries have different parameters in which they will allow certain parameters. So let me give you an example. Cannakizin brine, the hypoglycine level should not exceed 150 parts per million here in Jamaica, and it's the same parameter for Canada and the UK. However, the United States of America, their parameter is 100 parts per million. So if you send your product, it will pass here because we are okay. The law says 150 parts per million. But and for argument's sake, you test it and you get 120 parts per million. It will be okay here in Jamaica, and you'll also be okay in Canada and in UK. However, if that same product goes to the United States, they are going to dump it. So the point that I'm making is that different countries will have different regulations in place for different products.
Okay. So you would say then it's best to find out the different regulations to the countries that you're going into.
Definitely. And again, you hit a fundamental point. That's the reason why, one of the reasons why we are separating from the Bureau of Standards. So the Bureau of Standards will be there now to help you with all of that. So now they have a FSMA, the Food Safety Modernization Secretariat, that can help you with your products, to help you with the regulations of products that is entering the market, entering the US market. I know they are trying to see if they can expand that to include the Canadian safe food and also the ones that are in the UK. So that's one of the reasons why the Bureau is being separated for the regulators. So we are just going to regulate everything on the local market. The Bureau will assist you in getting your products up to standard, whether it be local or international.
Okay, because like for my facility, market I'm going in.
Hold on. Hi, Miss James. Sorry to cut you, but we kind of out of time, and I know that you have some more questions that you would like to ask. So I am sorry to cut you in the middle of the conversation, but we can definitely take your questions as a part of our training evaluation form, and we'll definitely leave our contact information that you can send all your questions to, so that we can answer off here further to this session. Right. I see two other hands, Miss Williams. Not sure that says Green Williams and Sharon McFarlane. So we will answer all other questions that you have. All you have to do is fill out the training evaluation form. There's a section there that says, do you have any other questions? You put that there and I'll direct them to Mr. Clark so that we can do some follow-up for you from that angle. So without further ado, I would like to now just turn over to Mr. McGregor, who will do the closing out of the session. He is the SBDC director, and he will just bring the closing remarks now. So Mr. McGregor, if you could unmute your mic.
Hello, I don't have a question. It's just an announcement I wanted to make. So just give me some time. It's about 1 minute. It could be after Mr. McGregor.
You can go ahead. You can go ahead now.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm Sharon McFarlane, and I'm the cluster coordinator for the agro parks. And primarily what I do is market the fresh produce that are grown by the farmers on the agro park. And I realize a lot of you are agro processors, and I just want to inform you that you can get raw materials from the agro park. We have certified farmers on the agro park, farmers who are Global Gap certified. So you can contact me. I can provide my phone number, and we can discuss purchasing of raw materials, fresh produce, fruits, vegetables, and root crops from the farmers in the agro park. Thank you.
All right, thanks much, Ms. Farlin. So Mr. McGregor, if you could go ahead. Thanks.
Hello, are you hearing me? Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing you.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, we're hearing now. We're hearing now.
I'm hearing you.
Yes, good afternoon, all. Firstly, Miss McFarlane, where is that facility that you spoke of? Where is it?
We have one agro park in St. Thomas, PGR in St. Thomas. We have.
Where are you located? Could you share that in the? Just share it in where you're how to get in contact with you.
No, I'm putting my number there, but I oversee all the agro parks, and it's 6 of them. So you if you want to purchase from New Forest, Duff House, PGR in St. Thomas, Ametial in St. Catherine, Ebony and Spring Plain in
Clarendon. No, but listen, hold on, Miss McFarlane. Listen to what we're trying to do. Don't want to send people all over the place. So just give us your information, right?
Yes,
just leave it in the chat.
Yes.
And you will get to you. We don't want all those other people. We just want to get to our lead person, which is you.
Yes.
And then so just leave your contact information in the chat for us, please. All right?
Okay, thank you. I'm doing just that.
All right. Thanks. Okay. Good afternoon, all. I am not at work. I am on leave. But I couldn't pass this opportunity to participate in this training session because as myself and Mr. Hunter was putting together, we realized it have been very interesting and informative to our target audience, which is the agro-processors. And I must say from their responses, all have appreciated it. So we must say kudos to the presenters. It was very informative. And as per usual, they are more aware of what they need to do to get their products up to standard. So cheers for the presenters. And I like the way how it was done too, because RADA first gave their part and then it followed up by the authority. So it's a great feeling, and everyone feel appreciated and everyone was properly informed. Thanks again to the ICT department for facilitating us on their platform. And we must say the quality again was good. I heard everyone, the presentation was clear, and they are even recording us now. So we have to say kudos to them again for facilitating us. We'll continue having more sessions like this because you know that we have to get everyone up to par. Even though COVID seemed to want to get the better of our economy, we here have to do our part at RADA.